What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo MLB Live Before Lock Show. I'm Dave Loughran, and with me, as he is every single Monday, you're going to see this fella's face around the lock going forward. Been crushing it, even hosting the NFL Live Before Lock injury report on Sunday mornings and doing a bunch of other stuff. Some great analyst work as well, and you're going to hear from him today. If it's the first time, well, good. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We're going to lead you in to the 6:37, I think, lock. His name is Terry McBride. We've got a lot to talk about, Terry. An 8-game slate and a little bit different. You've got FanDuel with fewer games. FanDuel with fewer games than DraftKings. They're going to be starting this one the 7 o'clock hour. So we'll try and hit on everything, but focused a little bit more on this first 8-game slate, and we'll work our way around.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, definitely a weird decision by FanDuel not to just drop down and pick up those other couple games and make it a better experience overall, bigger tournaments. But they could split into 3 different tournaments for the day and collect more rake this way. So that's what they chose.
Interestingly, usually FanDuel was the one that started doing this last year. FanDuel was the one that started doing the 6 o'clock, the 6:10 starts. And I was so frustrated with it because it made the process of writing articles and doing shows so much more difficult. But that is not the case today. So look, we'll hit on both of them. As you know, we're going to hit on this. DraftKings has 8 games. FanDuel only has 6. So everything is going to make sense, and the conversion makes sense as well. So let's just dive right into it. And of course, at the end of the show, we'll make sure to leave more than enough time to take your questions, not just the final couple minutes where you're trying to make decisions and moves, and well, it's already too late. So Terry, I say we dive straight into it. We could go game by game. Yeah, I think we have enough time to go game by game. So let's make this happen. Of course, if you want to follow along, if you're a premium subscriber, pull up that ownership page, pull up the projections, the top stack tool, because we're going to be referencing a lot of that throughout the show. It is a staple of what we do at Awesemo. Alex Baker creating these ownership projections, and these are what he uses. This is what he wins with, and this is what we win with and we use as well. So you're welcome to join us there. So let's talk about this. The first game, not on FanDuel, but it is on the DraftKings slate. You've got the Yankees and the Blue Jays, a 10.5 run total. Yankees minus 141 on the money line, Terry. Matt Shoemaker is making a triumphant return. He's been out for exactly a month. So 30 days he returns. He hasn't pitched since August 21st. And on the opposite side of him, you've got Michael King, who in a few appearances this season has been, well, less than stellar. But here you go, a very high total, 10.5. Again, expected to see some runs here. What are you doing with pitching? If we can start it off with Matt Shoemaker, let's do it.
Yeah, I think Shoe's going to wish that he had stayed on the IL a couple extra days here with what the Yankees are going to do to him in this spot. I just think it's an absolute smash spot for them. Getting great home run marks in my home run model. Alex has good projections for him. Looking at the top stacks, they rank as the top stack overall on both sites. Or I'm sorry, on just DraftKings because it's not on the other slate. I was the first one to screw that up. Yeah, I think it's a killer spot for the Yanks. I don't think I would really touch Shoemaker. 7,200 is not like you're getting a great discount on him. The kid on the other side, 4,000 min price for Michael King. I think I can make some room for that. It's not a great spot. He has not been pitching well, like we said. He's made 3 starts, 24 innings, 5.51 xFIP to his 6.75 ERA, which is pretty bumpy. 5 home runs allowed. But in the minors, he was a high 20s strikeout guy. 7.4% swinging strikes in the show so far, so really has not had his stuff working. But if he can get through a few innings clean for that money with some of the high-priced bats on this slate, that's a functional SP too. So I think he's in play in that regard.
Right now, yeah, in the top stack tool, you mentioned that the top stack probability for the Yankees is 18.7%. That's pretty high. It's 5% higher than the next closest team, who we'll discuss in a little bit. Ownership on them is also up there. It's not the highest, but it is coming in at the 3rd highest. And value. So this is where I want to dig in a little bit more. The Yankee value, as far as their bats go, as far as a stack is concerned, isn't particularly great, only because, well, you're going to be paying for these guys. You know, there was a while where Aaron Judge was out of the lineup. He's been back for, I think, like 5 days now or 4 games. Giancarlo Stanton has made his return. He's been back for about a week. So that means that these guys are going to get pricey. Now, Stanton is not that expensive. Aaron Judge is up there on DraftKings at 5,700. Frazier at 47. Just across the board, a lot of these guys are going to cost you. So what would you say would be your approach here when stacking Yankees? Are there any, and we can jump around since it's live before lock, are there any specific pitchers that fit best with this when you crunched your lineups? Is there anything you identified as Yankee stacks kind of funnel me into this spot at pitching, or can you be a little bit diverse?
So it's tough to get to the full 5-mans. There are a few decent salary saving spots. Like Hicks isn't that expensive. He's 39. You got Brett Gardner down at the bottom of the lineup at 32 on DK. So there's some workable pricing. You mentioned Stanton, obviously a star at that price is very good. And then Glaber's at only like 48. So there are some workable pieces in there. But mostly, yeah, I was coming up with lineups where I'm dropping all the way down and picking up like a Michael King. And then that leaves you room to pay up for a pricey starter with him. Or you've got to get uncomfortable and get into that like Lester, somebody around that level, and then grab like a Lester pairing, and then you can play the most expensive Yankees and a reasonable other stack. If you wanted to go to 5-man, the best way to approach them might be to just deploy them in 3-mans and pick off some of the lower on guys, take some of the upside out of that lineup, and then get to a better second stack as your full man and pay for good pitching. Because some of those starters in that mid-range, I like a few of the guys in the 8K range, but once we drop out of that and get into the 7s, I'm not as wild about it. So it's challenging to build with this Yankees team for sure tonight. And I think that's a part of what's keeping the ownership down.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And my apologies, Clint Frazier not in the lineup. I can't remember the last time he hasn't been in the lineup. Even since Stanton and Judge returned, he had been in there. But it's LeMahieu, Judge, Stanton, Luke Voit, Torres, Hicks, Urshela, Sanchez, and Gardner. It is a murderer's row of hitters here. It's a juggernaut of an offense. And I'm with you. I think they're going to give Matt Shoemaker a run for his money. I've always been a fan of Shoemaker, but this is not the spot where I'm looking to do so. In his appearances this year, he's allowing 2.81 home runs per 9, Terry. So when you look across the board, and by the way, I know he hasn't faced a ton of batters, only 5 starts and 102 batters faced, but in that time he really has struggled. So I am with you here. It's unlikely going to be a smooth sailing for Matt Shoemaker, and like you said, maybe should have waited 5 more days until he came off that injured list, but that's not the case. So you talk about King being someone you think is viable at a dirt cheap price point, literally the minimum on DraftKings. You don't see that too often. Are there Toronto bats, though, that stand out to you in this spot?
Yeah, I think we can definitely play some Toronto bats with that too. I liked him a little bit against Montgomery when I thought he was going to go, and I still kind of like him against King here. I will have some of the pitcher, I think, in like we talked about, but yeah, we can roll these guys out. I'm getting decent home run marks through the top, like 5 hitters, and they're not prohibitively expensive. There's some reasonable pricing on these guys, so I can get to a stack that includes like a Kevin Biggio, Randall Grichuk, Vlad Guerrero, Lourdes Gurriel. If you want to throw Travis Shaw into the mix as a good lefty-righty spot for him, I'm fine with that. Not too expensive, not getting a ton of ownership, get some position flex, some home run upside. Back end of the lineup isn't their best, but you can work with some of the pieces in it. VR is in the lineup, I'm sorry, this is the projected lineup still. So I've got VR in the back end of the projected, and Derek Fisher is the lefty bat in the back end of the projected. Both fairly cheap. Fisher only 2,400, so it could be a workable piece if you need some savings there.
You want to move on to the next one here?
Yeah, I think we hit most of this one.
Yeah, I think we did. Let's talk Milwaukee and Cincinnati. Again, the second of 2 games not on the FanDuel slate. It is included on DraftKings, 6:40 p.m. Eastern time lock. Luis Castillo, Brandon Woodruff, 2 solid right-handed pitchers. Total in this game coming in, implied totals, more specifically, 3.4 for the Brewers, 3.7 for the Reds. Reds minus 124 money line favorites. And, look, both of these guys are just both of them offer a decent amount of upside. Woodruff on the Brewers side is striking batters out almost 30% this season. He's allowing a decent amount of home runs, but really nothing to be concerned about, especially given that he's going to mitigate that with a ton of with a ton of strikeouts. A pretty low walk rate for him, which is pretty encouraging as well. 13.5% swinging strike rate, called plus swinging strike rate of 31%, and an xFIP of 3.5. While on the other side, Luis Castillo, equally fantastic numbers, right? Some of them are very similar here, Terry, like 30.5% K rate for him, swinging strike rate 15.6%, called plus swinging at 31, and an xFIP of 2.84. Outside of Jacob deGrom, the lowest xFIP on the slate goes to one Luis Castillo. So a pretty good pitching matchup here between the Reds and Brewers.
Yeah, dynamite pitchers on both sides. Really, really like the game overall. I think we can get to both pitchers. I like that they're keeping the run totals down. I like Woodruff's chances to put up a good start against what is a pretty good Reds offense. Sixth best in baseball in the split with a 204 ISO. Only a 101 WRC plus, though, so only 1% better than the average. We'll call that league average. And they strike out 24.8% of the time against righties. So there's opportunity there for him. He's got to get through some of the patience. They draw 12.3% walks. So they're good hitters in the split, but I think he puts up a good start here for us. And I think he continues to show the quality that we've seen. He's been good at limiting hard contact, despite some of the home runs you mentioned. Among pitchers with 60 innings pitched this year, he's sixth best at just 28.1% hard contact. So the home runs are maybe a little bit fluky, maybe point where he left a couple pitches hanging. So I think he puts up a good start for the money, but I prefer the Castillo side. The Brewers just bad against righties, good against lefties, but I think he puts up a very good start for us here. You mentioned pretty much all the dominant numbers that I was going to mention, so I'll just give it a nice yeah for sure on that one across the board.
I'm with you. I love Luis Castillo today. I'm definitely surprised that the Brewers have labored this much against righties. Granted, there are a few bats that are no longer in that lineup that are, when you take Mike Moustakas out, when you take Yasmani Grandal out, switch hitter much better from the left side of the plate, it's going to affect you. I didn't think it would affect them this much, however, but it has. 26% strikeout rate is really high, 88 WRC plus. These are some ugly numbers. They're all green across the board for me from what I'm looking at. And by green, this is specifically targeted towards green for pitching, not for hitting. So yeah, Luis Castillo is a really good play. Right now, ownership at 40.8% on DraftKings. So two pitcher site, you're going to see some inflated ownership. He is going to be popular, but it makes sense to me. He's the second highest owned player and pitcher behind only Jacob deGrom. Now, with Brandon Woodruff, where would you say he is in your rankings at pitcher today? Is he in the middle? Is he towards the top? Are you not really interested in terms of comparing him to other pitchers that we really like?
So just going by raw projection, I've got him. He's top 4 for me.
Okay.
So I've got a good raw projection on him, and I like the price. I think that's a very, very fair price for him on DK at 8,200, downright cheap, really. And at 8,700 on, 8,700 on DK, 8,200 on FanDuel is a pretty cheap price. What am I talking about?
Wait, hold on. He's not on FanDuel.
I'm on the FanDuel slate. I don't know why I'm getting a price for him.
Maybe it's the early slate, probably. Maybe
that's what it is. I had to put the early slate in. So if you're playing that early slate, you still got time to get it in, I think. You can get him at a cheap price.
I think the early slate locked. That's all right. Lineups. We're here to talk about the main slate. That's all that matters. I'm not particularly intrigued by any hitting here. It's a good park. It's one of the best righty friendly power parks in the league. It's just both of these guys are really good. The total's sitting at 7.5 right now. Both teams with 3.7 and 3.4 totals respectively. Are there bats that you think might be worthwhile here, or is this a fade spot for you?
Pretty much a fade spot. If you wanted to get to some of those Reds backs, I could endorse it a little bit, I guess. We mentioned the quality that they've shown in the splits over the years. So I don't love Akiyama coming off the top, but if you wanted to zero in like a Castellanos, Votto, Suarez, Moustakas, Winker in that part of the lineup, maybe pick off 3 of those guys, I could roll with some of that. They're not getting very much ownership at all outside of Suarez. So maybe grab the 3 lefties in that spot, or grab Castellanos and two of the lefties who aren't named Joey Votto, and go with that.
All right. Moving forward here, Pittsburgh, Chicago Cubs, John Lester, JT Brubaker. What do you know about this guy, Terry? Let's start it off with him because the odds on this game, the Pirates are sitting with a sub 4 implied total, 4.7 for the Cubs, minus 143 money line favorites. This did open at 156. It's moved down to 143, 8.5 total. But 4.7 run total for the Cubs. It's at PNC Park, which we know is generally friendly to bats. What do you know about the righty on the bump for the Pirates?
So he's been pitching all right. He's 4.16 xFIP so far on the year in his 35 2/3 innings, 4 home runs allowed, 22.9% strikeouts, 10.7% swinging strikes. He induces 44.3% grounders, and in the minors he was a 50+% guy. So he's good at keeping the ball on the ground. Helps him limit to power to a bit of a degree. Gets a decent amount of swing and miss on his slider to both hands, which I like to see in a young pitcher, having an out pitch to both hands. Cubbies are pretty good though. Not a lineup I love to throw pitchers at. 180 ISO in the split, 99 WRC plus, right around league average. 25.3% strikeout though. So he could put up a decent start here, and he's not that expensive. So I think he's in play for us as an SP2, despite the quality lineup going against him. It's not a spot I love. I'm not excited about rostering him, but for 6,800, I think we can make it work.
The Pirates, on the other hand, are woefully bad against righties. Now, on the other hand, against lefties, squaring off against John Lester today, by no means are they good, right? But it is night and day. Like, they have a 61 WRC plus against righties, which is outrageously bad. Against lefties, though, striking out at a pretty low clip, well, middle of the league, 22.9%. It's average at this point. A 101 WRC plus. Okay, it's pretty average. I think it ranks like 18th or so in the league. And then their isolated slugging against lefties is 149, which is also league average, a little bit lower. Actually, I think it's towards the bottom. But the point being, they're still really bad against lefties. It's just they're twice as bad against righties. On the other hand, John Lester, not exactly your most potent or favored fantasy option. He's just oftentimes not somebody that's going to give you what you need, especially at this stage of his career. He's striking batters out at 17%, allowing 1 3/4 home runs per 9. He's got an xFIP at 5 even, Terry. And by the way, a swinging strike rate that is the lowest on this entire slate at 7.4. So I don't know. Maybe there's something I'm missing about Lester that you like today, but his fantasy value has really plummeted over the past couple seasons.
Yeah, it really, really has. And he's burned me a bunch of times, including the last time out against this same Pirates team when I thought it was a good spot. For the money, he is the guy that's in play in that below 8,000 tier for me, just based on the matchup. The Pirates are definitely better in the split, like you were saying. It's difficult to be that bad at hitting the ball for power and still having the ability to create runs at right around the league average. So that's impressive in and of itself. They can scratch out some base hits and circle the bases a little bit and make things happen. That could happen to Lester here again. He might allow a few too many guys on base, whether it comes in the form of a home run or a few base hits that are strung together. He might get dinged up again here. But I think I got to go back to the well with him just based on the price, based on the overall matchup. I'm not excited about it. I would limit it. He's not pitching well, like you mentioned, 175 home run per 9 this year. On top of that, limited 17% strikeout rate. That's across 50 and a third innings. So it's not a giant sample, but it's also a growing sample, and he's continued to be bad. 38th percentile of hard hit rate this year, 41st percentile in exit velocity allowed. Guys are getting the barrel on the ball. He's in the 8th percentile of barrels allowed, 16th percentile in strikeout rate. Just not a lot to love. Not a guy to get excited about at all. If you roll some Lester out as a pitcher, I would probably throw some Pirates stacks at him as well on the other side of it.
Yeah, his contact rate of 83.4% is higher than any pitcher on this slate. I know that's a very high number. His zone contact is almost 91%. So he's just not missing a lot of bats, but I get what you're saying. And you know what? The field is kind of there. He's the 6th highest owned pitcher on DraftKings. So, I guess there's some interest here, and much of that just comes from how absolutely dreadful this Pittsburgh Pirates offense is, and that's showing. I would assume almost any other matchup, and John Lester probably isn't getting much attention because he is 7,700. He's not 6,200. I would say he's not even priced towards his skill set at this point, but I get it. Pittsburgh is really bad, and I guess you're hoping for, just get through some clean innings and get enough strikeouts to not let you down and hopefully get the win. They are pretty big favorites on the road. Let's actually flip it over to bats here in this one between the Pirates and Cubs then, Terry. Is there either side that you really like today, or at least have quite a bit of interest in? Because right now the Cubs are at third highest top value in our top stack tool. Their top stack probability is also third highest, and they are getting the second most ownership, basically tied with the Yankees. Point being, Cubs are going to be very popular today. And I think for relatively good reasons, even if this isn't the greatest hitter park in the league.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about the Cubs side. I think it would sound a little silly of me to bash the Pirates and say we can play John Lester against them and then say they're my favorite stack in this matchup. So, yeah, for sure, we're going for the Cubs in this one. I think Brubaker, like I said, for the money, he could put up an okay-ish start here, but it's much, much more likely we're going to see some offense and some fireworks out of these Cubs bats. Really like Ian Happ all season long off the top of this lineup. Hits from both sides of the plate. Does it for power. 41% above average WRC plus. 275 ISO overall this year. 12 home runs. And then just bring that stack down through Rizzo, Contreras, Schwarber, Bryant. And then you can get into some lesser owned, less expensive guys. Jason Hayward, a lefty, having a really nice year this year. Sitting 214 ISO, 145 WRC plus, so 45% better than average. 6 home runs, 290, 410, 504 slash. Love Hayward there. Javi Baez hitting all the way down at 7th, not getting any attention in the ownership department because he costs 5,000 and he's scuffling a little bit in the slash department. But it's Javi Baez. I am fine rolling him out against this pitcher at no ownership. So there's a lot to do with that Cubs lineup here.
Yeah. Sometimes too, if you are a premium sub and you're looking at our top stack tool, be careful because you're getting aggregate ownership here. And there are times where there could be a single guy, like one or two batters that are kind of skewing that total ownership. And like you said, with Javi Baez, he's at 13. That's not that crazy. Contreras at 13%. Sorry, actually that's on FanDuel. Let me go to DraftKings to take a look at this, because I think it's important that we can break this down and look at it, kind of zoom out a little bit. Yeah, it's Rizzo and Caratini that are getting the excessive amount of ownership. Outside of that, there are a bunch of players that really aren't that popular. Now they're popular, but not insanely popular. And as you just pointed out, one of them would be Javi Baez getting absolutely not. He's sub 1% on DraftKings.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's an easy spot for me to get to. I can start there. Field out there, you guys. You can have Victor Caratini for 2,400 off the bottom. I will take Javi Baez. I'm fine with that deal. No problems here. I like Kipnis as a little lefty, sneaky wraparound option at 8% there, 3,400. So yeah, a lot that you can do to click that thing together.
Wow. Yeah, that is surprising for sure. I guess people don't like paying $5,000 for a 7-hitter, but it is what it is, man. Yeah, you see stacks, the bottom of the lineup go off all the time where the top disappoints, and there's enough power, talent at the bottom of this one that makes sense to me. Do you have any interest in Pittsburgh right now, a team that is actually getting decent ownership? Terry, 5th highest projected owned stack right now in our Awesemo top stack tool, and I can tell you why, and you'll understand easily if you're watching, because the value, people love value bats, and people also love good pitching like Jacob deGrom, who I think is actually probably too cheap, even with the matchup. But yeah, you're probably going to see some Pirate stacks and then a deGrom, Luis Castillo at pitcher. I'm not saying it's the right move, but I'm saying it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen quite a bit across the slate too, and that's where that ownership I think is coming from. It can't be that many people that are that angry at John Lester like I am and looking to attack him. But yeah, I think there's enough quality in that lineup that we can get to it, and for those prices, it makes a lot of sense. I would focus probably more on the top-ish part of the lineup. Your Brian Reynolds, your Brian Hayes. I like Colin Moran. I like Josh Bell. Well, Moran less than a lefty. And then maybe like a Jacob Stallings, although he's drawing a little bit of ownership as a catcher, decent righty power, only 2,600. So that's definitely where that ownership is coming from. Makes a little sense. Maybe you could drop down to Jose Osuna if you needed a one-off from this team for 2,500. I get a decent little power mark on him. He's hitting all the way 9th, third base outfield eligibility, not drawing too much ownership out of this team.
MLB player rankings are free today on the site. You just saw them up on the screen a moment ago. Jordan Klein producing, always doing a great job at making sure you're getting a good visual experience as well, so you don't always have to stare at our ugly faces. But yeah, check that out. It's completely free. MLB player rankings at awesemo.com today. And here's a solid one. NFL Showdown ownership projections. And I don't know if you know this. Well, you wouldn't know this because I just found out about it, the decision that we made earlier today. Our express package, we said it might be a little bit light, right? So we wanted to beef it up a little bit. And I think you guys will appreciate this. It's $3.95 a week, right? For the express package. We're going to be including all Showdown information in the express membership. Okay. The Showdown projections, rankings, ownership for $3.95 a month. And I don't know, we're definitely doing it for NFL. I would imagine, yeah, okay, just for NFL, because if we're giving it to you for NBA right now, you're getting all of our premium stuff because, well, there's only Showdowns. But yeah, it's a huge upgrade, man. And I know a lot of us really have grown to love Showdowns. We were a little bit weirded out by it at first, but then you learn to play. And you know what? There is a bit of an edge there. There is a real way to figure out how to tell that story and build good lineups. So with the express package, only $3.95 a week, you're getting now all of our NFL Showdown slate, projections, ownership, rankings, all of that good stuff. That's going to be included for $3.95 a week. So check that out at awesemo.com/join. And if you're looking for more, if you're looking for everything, or even if you're looking for the NFL monthly, my recommendation is you just go with, unless you're only an NFL player or only an MLB player as you're watching the show right now, but the Awesemo Plus, the All Access monthly is a phenomenal deal. You get everything from baseball to basketball to football to MMA to NASCAR, PGA, esports. Like if there are contests out there, we have content for it. We've got the best projections, preeminent ownership projections out there. Alex Baker is the one that revolutionized really having ownership and making it available to our subscribers who have done so well. Just go to the Hall of Fame page at Awesemo and you'll see some of the monster wins that we've had. Much thanks to the projections and ownership, all of which Alex uses himself. He designed, he built them themselves. It's not just his name on them. It's the real deal. That's why people have so much success when they come over here. And be sure to join the premium Slack chat as well. People talking DFS and sports betting all day, all night long. It's an awesome community. Come join, win some money, become a better player, and learn something while you're at it. Maybe you'll even make a friend or two. Who knows, right? Icing on the cake. Awesemo.com/join. And remember, if you're looking for something cheap, maybe you're in tough times right now, totally understood. $3.95 a week for the express package. And now we'll be including all of our Showdown content for NFL, which is pretty huge. All right, Terry, Atlanta and Miami, unless you've got anything else on Pittsburgh, Chicago. I think we're good, right?
Yeah, I think we hit it on that game. I'm just blown away by that promo we're running. That's dynamite price.
Pretty sweet, right?
I mean, for the Showdown content alone, that's a good price. So, I mean, that's killing.
I know we said, yeah, it might be a little bit light. Let's beef it up. And this is the way to do it. Thank Tom Kennedy and Alex Baker for that decision if you decide to jump in. I think, obviously, like you said, it's clearly worth $3.95. It's worth a lot more than that. But we wanted to make the package.
Of a cup of coffee.
Yeah, oh, yeah. We wanted to make the package more inviting for sure, especially with NFL in full swing. Trevor Rogers on the bump, towing that rubber for Miami. Huascar Ynoa for the Atlanta Braves. Here's a fun one. I'm not necessarily sure where you're going here. We haven't talked about it, but the Braves do have a 5.4 run implied total, 4.2 for the Miami Marlins. Ynoa this year, the righty, who I'm not sure many people knew about prior to this season, is striking lefties out across 38 lefties, striking them out at 7.9%. Striking righties out, face 48 of them at 27%. and his swinging strike rate is 10.3%. I should pull up his swing. Maybe you have it. I meant to pull up his swinging strike rate against righties and lefties, but I can't imagine there's not a huge gap here. But that's where I bring you in, Terry, to tell me, can we trust him against the Marlins? 5.3% swinging strike rate against lefties, 16.28 against righties. What a huge split.
That is crazy. That is wild. And when you compare to the league average, just how far he is from the league average on both sides, that's crazy. It's not a spot I am wild about, but I think it's a workable price as one of those discount SP2s. This Marlins lineup is improved, I think, over what kind of their season numbers overall show in the aggregate. They were 27th in baseball if you look at it with a 140 ISO, but they do have a 95 WRC plus, which again, that's kind of wacky. It is 5% below average creating runs, but it's higher than you would expect it to be with that limited amount of power. They strike out 24.4% of the time overall against righties. There are a couple good lefties in that lineup. Let me see who they've got in the official lineup. So it's only 2 lefties in the lineup, and the rest of the guys right-handed, no switch hitters or anything. So it could be a spot where he's facing a decent amount of righties and gets some of those strikeouts, but I worry about what Corey Dickerson and Matt Joyce are going to do to him in this spot. I get good home run marks for both of those guys, so he could put up an okay start, but I'm be more inclined to maybe play some of those sneaky Marlins bats.
Top value right now is 2% for the Atlanta Braves. They are dead last in value in our owners or in our top stack tool. They are in ownership coming in around 7th, and top stack probability, you've got them 4th. So they're all over the map. You're gonna if you're stacking the Atlanta Braves today, Terry, you're going to be paying a premium. Ronald Acuna 5,900. Ozuna. Actually, let me make sure. Hold on. Let me make sure everyone's. Yeah. So Acuna 59, Freeman 55, Ozuna 5K, Darno batting cleanup at 47, Duvall 48, Ozzie Albies 51. This is a very expensive team. The question I have for you, and a very important one, very similar to what we talked about with the Yankees, because this is what wins and loses tournaments, and Alex Baker likes to call them you know what? What is not contrarian stacks? Pay up to be contrarian. That's his phrase. Do you pay up to be contrarian with the Atlanta Braves today?
That's a notion that I love in general. It's something that lands you on good plays and gets you different as opposed to going down to these guys that nobody's ever heard of that appear in lineup sometimes. So yeah, I love doing that. And I think this is a killer spot to do it with. Wrote up the Braves in either I think it was the overnight column. I like the spot against Trevor Rogers here. He's a good prospect overall, a kid with a decent pedigree, but he's allowed 5 home runs in just 21 innings this year, giving up some power. He was a 25% strikeout guy in the minors, has induced 12.5% swinging strikes, so it's there. But this Braves lineup is just good. They've had a little bit of wonky results earlier in the season against lefties, but if you set the sample back to the beginning of last year and just look at how good this team is against lefty pitchers, it's right there on the surface. I mean, I worry about how deep he would go into this game, and I think we can absolutely do some damage with these Braves. Adam Duvall, since the start of last year, 304 ISO in the split, 112 WRC plus. Freddie Freeman is a lefty against a lefty. Let me see. Oh, no, sorry, I hit that to the wrong side. Let me reset that what I'm saying there and click it over to the correct split. At the top of that list, Adam Duvall is a 366 ISO with a 159 WRC plus against lefties. Ozuna 363 ISO, 149 WRC plus. Austin Riley 327 ISO, 116 WRC plus. Do I have to keep selling this team at this point? I haven't even mentioned Acuna and Albies. This is a killer offense in this spot.
Yeah, Albies splits have always been pretty absurd as well. The one thing I'm going to ask you about, because I'm a host and that's my job, is the Atlanta Braves this season are striking out at 27.5% against left-handed pitching. That's the highest of any team not named the Tampa Bay Rays. The Braves also against lefties with a 90. I don't understand how this can even be true, but the Braves collectively seem to have lower numbers as a team than I would have initially suspected, Terry. That doesn't mean much when you start looking at some of these individual bats. But here comes the question. Trevor Rogers, who has not pitched a ton, but has gone, how many innings has he pitched? Let's see. Not a lot, right? 20, I think.
Yeah,
20.
not much. 5 starts, 21
innings. Yeah. Is striking batters out at 30%, 29% against 59 righties, and 31% against 39 lefties. Because of those numbers, because of the 12.5% swinging strike rate, because of the 31.5 called plus swinging strike rate, I have to ask you to drill down into that a little bit more if there is any interest here. I know you touched on it a second ago, but just let's get the final answer here on Trevor Rogers, because I know you love the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, if he was
expensive
cheaper,
too.
That's the thing. That's really the thing. If he was cheaper, I could roll some of that strikeout upside. He would be like a 10% guy in crunches for me, and then I would maybe play a little bit less than that in what I actually entered. But yeah, I think 8,000 on DK is just a little bit prohibitive for him. I would much rather go to, what was Woodruff, like 80? He was in that 8,000 tier.
Yeah, and Woodruff's 87, right? 87, and that's the big thing here. But Rogers' numbers are not like, we're going to get some matchups coming down the pike where, because he's only made 5 starts, we're going to get some starts where I think we have quite a bit of love for Rogers if he continues to miss that many bats.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And he's a kid. He's got good stuff. Like I said, good pedigree. He's in the top 10 in their system. And it's a fairly well-ranked system, I believe. So, yeah, I think he definitely has some upside for us in future starts. I just don't know that this is the spot for it. I worry about that, and especially at that price. Another guy that we'll mention in a little bit is more on point with the price comparison is Lance McCullers at 83 against Seattle. I can't justify paying this for Rogers when McCullers is essentially the same price.
Look, I'm with you. Like I said, I'm obligated to ask the questions, Terry. Braves have the second highest overall WRC plus of any team in the league this year. Just found it interesting. Against lefties, they have labored a little bit. Let's go to New York Mets and the Tampa Bay Rays. Jacob deGrom, baby, $10,500 on DraftKings, $11,500 on FanDuel. Matter of fact, the next closest pitcher is $9,500. That's Adam Wainwright on FanDuel. So a big $2,000 gap there. Don't be surprised by the price. There's no reason you should be. I'm actually surprised he's not a little bit more expensive on DraftKings. But the Rays have a 3-run total, 3.0. Mets at 4.1 run total, minus 183 in the money line. Let's talk about deGrom here.
Love deGrom. Love the spot for him. I do not worry about him at all. There was in Slack earlier today, there were a couple people asking about, he came out of his last start. He has a little bit of a lingering hamstring issue. If the Mets are putting him up in this spot, I am not worried about it. They're competent. They need to win, I think, 7 straight games and have a lot of other help happen to even make the playoffs. So it's not like they're in the thick of a playoff chase here. I do not think they would risk Jake deGrom if there was any overall issue of him hurting himself. Guys, you see it all the time, trying to correct for one injury, happen into another one. I don't think they'd do that to him. He's chasing a Cy Young, so he wants to be out on the hill. I understand that. But again, I just don't sweat it. I think he's going to roll out there and have a great start. The Rays are a good offense, good against right-handed pitching, 186 ISO, 107 WRC plus, but they strike out 25 and change % of the time. I have 25.6, but I wrote it down yesterday, so it might be slightly different. But the point is, it's Jake deGrom. He's a strikeout artist. I think he's going to put up a very nice start here for us. I don't worry about him at all.
Can't imagine he doesn't. Maybe the best fastball in the game. He can set down lefties and righties alike. We had a comment in chat. It was Jeremiah Johnson said, Dave, deGrom has actually been better versus lefties this year, and Tampa Bay is throwing out 6 of them. Yeah, he's simply one of those guys that when it comes to splits, usually you'd like to see them have the platoon advantage over most hitters. But Jacob deGrom, a 223 weighted on base average against lefties this year, 254 expected WOBA. 102 ISO with a 126 X ISO. When you look across all of these numbers, if you're kind of drilling deep into this, he's been almost identical in terms of expected numbers against both lefties and righties. The crazy thing too, and listen to this, Terry, 19% swinging strike rate against lefties. Against righties, I can't even imagine. Against righties, swinging strike rate is 25%. So even 19% though is ridiculous. His swing, this is nuts though. Jacob deGrom I know he hasn't pitched a ton of innings. Nobody has this year, but 54 innings for Jacob deGrom in 10 starts, 21.4% swinging strike rate. If you mentioned that, my apologies. I was reading chat, but 21% swinging strike rate is insane. Even though it's not sustainable across 10 starts, that's still one of the wildest numbers you're ever going to see for a pitcher.
That's outrageous. More than one out of every five pitches he throws gets swung and missed at. That is wild. Nuts. That's outrageous. That's how you put together a 36.4 strikeout rate for the year, 0.93 whip. The guy's on his way to a third straight Cy Young. I mean, he's
10,500 to me seems low.
It does.
Low. It really does. I don't know if people are spooked by last start. Who knows? I really don't care. I'm with you. I'll go back and I'll take anything can happen, but just not many pitchers can go out there and rack up 30 plus DraftKings points like he does almost every time out. On the other side, you've got a long reliever situation in Fleming, Josh Fleming for Tampa Bay. He threw last time out 3 2/3 innings, 54 pitches. The 6 days before that, he threw 75 and then 73 pitches. So Josh Fleming definitely is stretched out enough to where if he throws 75 or so pitches, it's possible. And he's cheap, but that's pretty much all I can say about him, unless maybe you have something else here that stands out to you because, hey, the Mets don't have a particularly high implied total. What's his ownership right now? Where's he coming in at? I lost it. Do you have it? I literally wait, here we go. I got it.
Yep.
He is, lost it again. Is he not showing up?
He might not be on there because it's like an opener with a probable bulk reliever kind of a situation. So I was actually just looking and deciding whether or not I would click it over to Pete Fairbanks, who is the other guy. And he's coming in at like 4K. I honestly don't know how much we're going to get out of either of these pitchers, so I don't really sweat it too much. And regardless of which one I put in there, what my model's telling me is probably play Mets bats out of that situation. So I'm not really going to sweat the which pitchers.
It doesn't
too much here. Yeah.
Maybe if Fleming was 4,500, we'd be having a very different conversation because 75, 80 pitches wouldn't be too bad in that spot. But yeah, I'm with you. At 6,600, it's an easy spot to stay away from. What are you doing with the hitters here?
I think I can get to some Mets bats. They're not crazy expensive. They're in like the high fours as a lineup for the most part, and nobody's really going to them. And in what we talked about, it's going to be probably, a half and half kind of a game, and then maybe into the bullpen. They're a decent bullpen in Tampa, pretty good. But I like a lot of this Mets lineup. So I think we can get to some Mets here. I actually still have the projected, and I think we do have the official lineup here. And I think Conforto was not in it, but you get
Conforto is officially out of the lineup. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But you get to a Nimmo, and I think McNeil's hitting in the top of the lineup. JD Davis, Dominic Smith in there. Really like those guys and what they're doing this year. Peter Alonso, I know he scuffled a little bit, but we saw what he could do last year, and there's just immense upside in his bat. So I like a lot of pieces of the Mets here.
Okay. The ownership on Tampa is laughable. Like they're all below 1%. They're literally all below 0.4% today. So need I say any more?
I think that covers it.
Okay. Sounds good to me, man. Kansas City, St. Louis. Alex Wainwright mentioned that he's the second highest priced pitcher on FanDuel and on DraftKings. He's the third highest priced pitcher at 9,500. Talk about a real renaissance from Adam Wainwright over the past 1.5 seasons. He's got a sub-1 whip on the season, not an ERA guy, but to see him below 3 is pretty remarkable. It really looked like he was falling apart just a couple of years ago. And now here he is really doing a good job managing base runners, to a large extent, managing power. So it's just the price is pretty wild. It's not like he is this insanely talented strikeout pitcher anymore. So I don't know. That seems like an outrageous price for him, and I don't have any interest in him personally. But maybe you can change my mind, Terry.
No, I'm with you. Actually, that's kind of where I landed too. I told the anecdote this morning, so anybody who saw that show is going to hear it again. On the early bird last night, I gave probably like a 90-second little monologue about how good Waino's pitching this year, how much I like the spot for him. And Jason let me talk, and he let me talk. And then when I was done, he said, it costs $9,500 on both sites, and I just immediately wiped it off. It's not.
Yeah, it's just completely untenable situation. You can't do it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of luck in what he's been doing this year. He's getting a lot of atom balls. His 228 BABIP against, so there is some luck baked into that. It's a 4.21 xFIP, which is still quality. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but the 4.21 xFIP is a little more telling than the 2.87 ERA. I agree with you. I love to see him pitching well. He's a guy I've always liked through his career for whatever reason, partially to do with that ridiculous curveball he threw to freeze Carlos Beltran in the championship series. Yeah. But he's getting the highest swinging strike rate of his entire career at 11%, which is a little wild for a guy like this. Added like 100 and change RPM to that curveball, which was already bananas, and he's getting increased whiff on it, which is where some of this is coming from. So I think the changes are real. I just can't justify that price. I do like the matchup. Royals 23rd in baseball, 151 ISO, 11% below average WRC plus in the split, 24.7% strikeout rate. Lots to like about the matchup. Just a tough price to pay for this pitcher where he is in his career.
Hey guys, 7:20 Eastern time. Your boy EMAC, Eric McPherson, and Kyle Dvorchak are taking you all the way up to lock with the NFL Live Before Lock Show Showdown slate. Terry, I jumped on the Raiders. They were getting 6 points. Jumped on the Raiders yesterday morning at +6. Last I looked, how about this? It's moved to +4 for this game, which means I'm bound to lose this, even though I've clearly made a fantastic bet. I am very excited for this game. No Michael Thomas. We'll see what Manny Sanders can do. And then on the other side, Henry Ruggs looked great before that injury in week 1. So let those guys take you all the way up to lock, break it down for you. Take your questions, 7:20 p.m. Eastern time. And hey, while you're at it, while you're sticking with us right now, if you haven't done so yet, hit that thumbs up button. Help get us above 100. We got over 500 watching. It really helps us a ton. So smash that thumbs up, subscribe too, and hit that notification bell if you haven't done so yet. You'll always know when new shows are dropping, when you're subscribed, when you're getting notifications. Bing, bang, boom, nothing to lose, right? Seth says, EMAC is not my boy. We know, Seth, we know. This guy lives to troll EMAC. It's awful.
It really does.
It is
Every
awful.
time EMAC tweets something, he's like the first response, like right underneath.
Yeah, it's insane. I love you, Seth, but pull it together, fella. What are you doing with Carlos Hernandez and the St. Louis Cardinal bats?
Probably throwing some Cardinals bats at him. Not really in love with the spot for the pitcher. He's an okay prospect. He's a like 11th, 12th organizational prospect, and they're like the 18th ranked organization. So some quick math, it puts him middling kind of a prospect. Cards, some wacky numbers in the split. They've missed a lot of games and have sort of a small sample, but overall 29th in baseball this year with a 132 ISO against righties. But the WRC plus, again, another weird team that way. It's 95, so it's only 5% below average. I think the Cards can get on top of this pitcher. I like some of the bats, and they rank out really well for Alex as well. They're going a little bit over-owned, which is the one concern here, because there is some value in that lineup. There's a couple expensive hitters, but overall, they're not that high priced. So they are drawing some attention. But some of my favorite bats in the lineup, to your point earlier about using the individual ownership, are not getting all that attention. So I think we can still work with this lineup and get to enough of a stack. Maybe it's a 3-man that we put with another team. Maybe it's a 5-man where we're building with some of the other building blocks out of the most popular ones. But I think there's a lot to be done with this Cards offense, and I don't really want much of the pitcher against them.
Would you say that's the one spot in this game you're into, Cards offense? That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Let's close it out and get to some questions. Houston and Seattle, Lance McCullers and Marco Gonzalez. I mentioned to you last time we did the show that Gonzalez is very talented in getting called strikes, not as talented in missing actual bats. But I just refreshed those called plus swinging strike numbers, and it keeps coming up. Now he's at 32% with an 8.8% swinging strike rate. I promise you, you guys will not see this in many other places. He's kind of an enigma, but that doesn't mean that we need to roster him here against Houston. Lance McCullers, on the other hand, against Seattle, $8,300. Fella's got a wicked knuckle curve. He seems to have settled down after a brutal start earlier in the year. I thought something was really wrong with him. I thought he was tipping his pitches. I didn't know what was up. I know he had a bad start a couple games back against the Angels, but outside of that, he really has flashed a pretty decent ceiling here. 8,300 against Seattle. What can I say, Terry?
Yeah, I love that spot for McCullers for sure. That was one that just kind of popped out to me at the price. Just looking across the board for, who else was priced in that range. He really, really stuck out against the Seattle lineup that I do not have much respect for. They're another one of those wacky teams with a positive WRC plus. Maybe that's a trend this year. I don't know, but not generating a bunch of power against righties. 24th in the league with a 151 ISO as of yesterday. So just not a ton to love about this lineup. And I think we can get to a decent amount of strikeouts with McCullers here. 23.6% strikeout rate. Again for the Mariners against righties, and he's only at a 21.6 rate this year, but his career is 26.2. You mentioned he had some struggles earlier where we thought, maybe he was tipping pitches. His swinging strikes are down a little bit overall on the year, but it's still 11%, decent rate. It had been like 12 to 13%, so we'll maybe see that trend back and regress to the norm. Limiting power, only 4 home runs in 44 and a third innings, 3.94 xFIP to his 4.87 ERA. So he's gotten a little bit unlucky in there. So yeah, I think we can really roll with a lot of McCullers here.
Craig says, so in a single entry, I'm going with a Rays 1 through 5 stack. Thanks for the call, Terry. Okay. He's going for a Rays 1 through 5 stack, Terry. What do you think? of everything, of all the great information you've provided on this show, that's what he took away from it. You know what, Craig? Best of luck to you, fella.
There you go.
Shout us out when you win, all right? What else are you doing with this game? I want to get through these so we can take some questions. Any other thoughts?
All about the Astros bats there. Astros against the lefty, just absolutely smash spot. Marco is good. He's pitching well, but you mentioned it. It's going to be a lot of him relying on getting those called strikes. These guys aren't going to be swinging and missing. And he doesn't get swing and miss, and this lineup doesn't swing and miss against lefties. Only a 16.6% strikeout rate against lefties and for them as a team. 228 ISO first in the league, 129 WRC plus as a team. I think they smash Marco here. Maybe he gets through. Maybe he does an okay job, but if I'm putting my money down, that's where it goes.
All right, you got a warrant out for your arrest?
Yeah, they're coming for me, man.
We the people says
that way.
Yeah, we the people. I appreciate you, man. Very kind words. Okay, let's close it out, and then we'll get your questions. If you guys have questions, just start putting them in chat right now, and we'll get to all of them. Colorado, San Francisco, Johnny Cueto, Herman Marquez. Cueto and the Giants have a 4.2 run implied total, 3.9 for the Rockies. At Oracle Park, not a good hitter, not a hitter-friendly venue. Actually, it's the exact opposite of where the Rockies regularly play. Giants are minus 119 here. And ownership for these pitchers, Herman Marquez at the current time, and we will get, I would assume, you know what, that would be our final update. Marquez at 26% and Johnny Cueto at 8%. So Marquez, very popular today in a spacious park out there in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good spot for Marquez. We know the Giants been a little bit frisky this year. They are 10th in baseball against righties with a 183 ISO and a 113 WRC plus is pretty good. I don't know, for all I've seen from them, I just still don't believe in this lineup. When I look down at and I look at what these guys are, I just don't know how they're getting that done. So I think it's a good enough spot for Marquez that's at 7,800 on DraftKings. I can definitely roll with that price. He's pretty good. He's actually been better at Coors than he has on the road. 3.67 xFIP at Coors to a 4.14 xFIP on the road, but pitching pretty well overall. 3.88 xFIP overall. Only allowed 6 home runs in his 68 and 2/3 innings this year, striking out 21.7% of hitters, only walking 7.9. So I like the spot for him. He strikes out 23.9% of righties, 19.7% of lefties. So I think he can get to both sides in this one. There are a fair amount of right-handed hitters there. There's a couple lefties to worry about with a Dickerson and a Belt in there, but I think he has a good start here. So I can definitely get to some Marquez. Not so much Johnny Cueto on the other side.
Guys, all of our shows are on our podcast network as well. So search Awesemo. If you don't want to watch them, if you're driving or something, check them out there. Some very cool stuff. And if you haven't checked out Odd Shopper, use it. It is awesome. I use it every day for betting. It's phenomenal. You can search players for props. You can set watch lists and set alerts for when these odds move the way you want or against you. And you can shop from all these different books to figure out what best fits you. There's no better time than to jump in for the NFL season. And pay attention. We've got some awesome stuff coming up that's going to be released at Odd Shopper very shortly. But oddshopper.awesemo.com. Let me know what you think. I really think you guys are going to enjoy this. It's completely free. And I think it's going to completely revolutionize the way you guys are betting and the way you're doing things. All right, let's take some questions. I'll finish with this. Any bats for this one?
Jumping back over, not really. As much as I don't love Cueto in the spot, I don't love taking the Rockies on the road, and they're not great against righties. You could throw some of them at him, but it's not a spot I would go wild with. Maybe a little bit if you're rolling out a lot of Marquez. Maybe grab a couple giant stacks to throw on the other side of it. But again, not a spot I would go wild with. No Yaz in the Giants lineup tonight either diminishes them a little bit. So yeah, not really a spot for bats from me.
All right, we got 10 minutes till lock. Let's go. Butthole Jenkins says, I need some dong picks, bro. Well, I don't send dong picks, but I'll give you a home run pick. But Terry, go first. Guest of honor on today's show. Who is your dong pick? Keep it in your pants, you know?
Trying to remember who the hell I took in my column last night. Marcell Ozuna. I think
Marcell Ozuna?
Pretty sure that's who I took.
All right, give me Anthony Rizzo. Yeah, he's going to be popular, but you know, I'm not going contrarian here. I'm just trying to be right. All right, let's see here. What else we got? Is McCullers the best value pitcher from Jeremiah?
Probably, as far as talent wise and as far as general upside, I would think. I'm just scanning the list here on DK. Yeah, I like him significantly better than like a Marco, significantly better than a Lester. We've got Marquez there at 78. So I think it would be.
Okay. Let's see here. That's interesting. Brad says, hate the Astros tonight. Honestly, think Marco Gonzalez has a night. I wouldn't be shocked. Like I said, I have a lot of respect for Marco Gonzalez, but the next question was, are you liking the Astros stack from somebody else? I know you answered this, but maybe they weren't here. The answer for you is yes, right, Terry?
Yeah, that's an enthusiastic yes. They are excellent against lefty pitching. They don't strike out a lot. Michael Brantley loses a little bit of his power quality in same-handed matchups, but Kyle Tucker maintains great splits against lefties, so I don't worry about rolling him out there. And then just all the righties in this lineup from Springer, Bregman, Yuli Gurriel, Carlos Correa. I know he's struggling with power this year, but I still like him as a shortstop, and that's why you're getting him for 4,500. And then you can get cheap with rolling out a Reddick and a lefty at only 2,500 if you need to. Martin Maldonado not drawing any ownership at the catcher spot, under 1%. For 4,200 on DraftKings. I like that if he's in the lineup. So yeah, I think we can definitely do some stuff with the Astros here.
Stephen Burrell says, Laffy, you're the man with a plan and in demand. Oh, thank you, good sir. Look out for Marmolejos and Darren Ruff. What do you think? Get a home run from one of those guys today? Or would you set the odds at like plus 1,500 that they homer?
Yeah, that wouldn't be my spot. And you just heard the thing go off when I even tried to search for Ruff. Let me see if I can pull him up this way. So let's see my home run model where he pops up. He's not even coming up in here for me. That would not be my spot.
All right. Well, thank you anyway, Steven. Seth asks, can we leave money on the table tonight?
In baseball, if you can figure out a way to do it, it's harder to do on DK, easier to do on FanDuel, although they've improved their pricing a little bit. But in baseball, I'm always fine with leaving money on the table, even to fairly extreme degrees. If you can get to a pair of good stacks or a lineup that has a good stack and a few good one-offs and a good pitcher, by all means, there's no need to spend all your salary on baseball if you don't have to.
All right. Paul asks if we trust DeGrom coming off his hamstring. Yeah, both of us are A-okay with that, especially where he's priced. I think it'd be tough to get a bad game from him, but it's baseball. Anything can happen. Let's try and fire through some of these real quickly, Terry. Thoughts on Woodruff and a Brewers stack? Well, that's easy, but I'll let you answer.
I like Woodruff. I don't love the Brewers stack part of that, though.
Yep, I'm with you as well. Gardner or O'Neill?
Assuming we're talking Brett Gardner, Tyler O'Neill. O'Neill's significantly bigger upside. I believe Gardner's cheaper. I don't have them side by side right now. I think Gardner would be cheaper and more sneaky. Yeah, okay. O'Neill's going like 21% owned. Gardner's going, clicked on the wrong one. Gardner's going less than that. I don't have it.
That's okay. We said, do you like Miles Straw? Leading off, very cheap for the Astros with the platoon advantage.
Oh, I didn't have that. I didn't get the ownership update while we were talking. So, yeah, leading off, I can justify that. It's not in front of me in my model, so I don't have a number to give you. But anybody in a leadoff spot for an ownership advantage or a price advantage, I can always justify.
For sure. Yeah, we're getting him at 22% right now, which makes sense. He's going to be popular. There's no reason he shouldn't be. But look, very, very popular bats that are cheap and don't have a ton of power can be great stay away spots. Worth considering that at least. All right, I want to get to these in our premium Slack. So while I put these together, I'm going to just give you a couple. You can run through them. One, a good question from Seth. Who would be the chalk pitcher you most want to stack against if you had to? DeGrom, Marquez, or McCullers?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I like that. Let's see. DeGrom, Marquez, or McCullers? Probably just because it's been the best of those offenses, I would probably stack against Marquez with that San Francisco lineup. I don't want to go against DeGrom, and I don't trust Seattle enough.
Okay. In our premium Slack chat, Fantasy Wiz says, loving a giant stack tonight. Any thoughts? Marquez, very popular out there in San Francisco.
Yeah, so I mean that would be that kind of dovetails with the last one there. That's a spot that I think out of those guys, if you're going to attack one of those chalky-ish pitchers, I think the giant stack would be the one to do it there. I got to figure out why Ruff isn't coming up in my projections for me.
Couple minutes to go here. Jeff Williams, best catcher. He said do cash. I think he means for cash, 2,800 or less on was it FanDuel or DraftKings? I'm assuming DraftKings. Is it going to be Kirk for you?
That is getting awfully specific. I'll just give you a yes on that.
Yeah, he's Kirk's $2,300. He appears currently to be the chalk catcher option on DraftKings. He's batting 8th for Toronto against King, 2,300. Yeah. It looks like people are just going cheap here. I don't imagine there's a lot of great value outside of that. Jacob Stallings is coming in around 8%. Elias Diaz is coming in at 3% at 2,800. So there's not a ton there. Oh, Caratini, 2,400 also. Him and Kirk are getting the most ownership there, Terry.
Yeah, and Stallings was the one that was on my radar a little bit to attack Lester with. Somewhat decent amount of little pop in there and not that expensive. So I might prefer him at like half the ownership at like around 11% if you're just looking for a catcher one-off rather than playing one of the guys in the 20s. That would be the only real thing there.
All right, Kyle. Yes, there is a top stack tool. Every single day under the MLB tab, drop down. You got it. All right. Do we have anything else? I think we're about there. Will Cook says Marco Gonzalez is sneaky. Like if he keeps pitching the way he has been this season, it's not the craziest idea. I think that's it, Terry. We've reached the end of the road. We've got a few minutes before we go live, 6:37. So if anyone has anything else, I'll stick around for a few more seconds, and then we can call it a day. Elizabeth asks about Alex Gordon. Here's a good one. Alex says, are 6, 8, 9, 1, 2 stacks viable? Well, I don't want to be that specific, but yes, wraparound stacks can be very viable, especially knowing that the bottom of the lineup, the bottom of the order can oftentimes be usually is very much the lowest owned part of a stack. So yeah, if you went like 7, 8, 9, 1, 3 or something, that absolutely has value.
Yeah, I write those up all the time in my afternoon stack slants column that's looking for the lesser owned approaches to some of these things. You can get different with a lot of really popular teams and really popular stacks specifically by doing that. The one thing to keep in mind is you're likely going to sacrifice a plate appearance for some of those guys in the bottom of the order. Sometimes they just won't get up again when you need them to. So that's the only thing that's wrong with it, but you can find a ton of quality that way.
Hey, good luck to everyone today. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hit that thumbs up before you head out. We're 5 away from getting to the 100 mark. I know we don't get as much for MLB as we used to, but I think that's a decent mark, a decent goal to get to. Good luck to everyone. We'll see you back here on tomorrow's MLB Live Before Lock. And remember, like I said, $3.95 express packages. Now we're including everything for the Showdown slates. If you're just tuning in now and you missed it, NFL Showdown slate, projections, ownership rankings, all of that great stuff is going to be included for $3.95 a week going forward. We're beefing it up. We're making things happen. We want to make you guys happy. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. For Terry, I'm Dave Loughran. We'll catch you back here on Live Before Lock.